Real quick, before we get into the show, I wanted to share a new service called Getita that Ken and I have been using that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you?
In Mexico, they're used to manufacture for big companies or big brands from the US and all over the world. But the problem is that that market was available just for exactly the big brands because they already knew this. And they were like working together many, many years ago. There is also manufacturers that are focused in just one product. Let's say plastic injection product, small product. That doesn't mean that they are not open to manufacture yours because they already have the machines and the knowledge and everything. Like I said, we just need to be creative and go for it. And that's what I always recommend. The most important thing is that we are too used to Asia. And we need to take that out of our heads and start thinking, I need to discover something different. And different means you need to be patient. It's not going to be the same. You're not going to have a quote in 24 hours. You're not going to have a quote in, sometimes it takes a week so you can have a quote.
Welcome everyone to the Firing the Man podcast, a show for anyone who wants to be their own boss. If you sit in a cubicle every day and know you are capable of more, then join us. This show will help you build a business and grow your passive income streams in just a few short hours per day. And now your hosts, serial entrepreneurs David Schomer and Ken Wilson.
Welcome everyone to the Firing the Man podcast. On today's episode, we are joined by Susana Bermudez, a life and business coach, as well as sourcing specialist in Mexico. We will be taking a deep dive into sourcing in Mexico. This is an episode you will definitely not want to miss. Welcome to the show, Susana.
Thank you, guys, David and Ken, for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. So to set the scene, can you please tell us your story and what led you to start sourcing products out of Mexico?
Yeah. Well, I'm from Costa Rica. I moved to Mexico. I lived in Mexico for 6 years. Well, then I moved to the US. But in those 6 years, I was working as a life and business coach. So I started helping manufacturers to find ways to enter the US market. So when I started searching on that, I realized that e-commerce, because in Latin America, e-commerce is in Pampers, and most of the people think that e-commerce is just their website and sell through their website. Because we didn't have like this access to platforms like Amazon, right? So I start telling them, we need to find ways to enter the US market, but not the traditional way, like in retail stores. We need to try to do it on Amazon. And literally, I thought that Amazon was like this big store where like they just sell everything and all these products was from them, not any regular particular people selling brands or like their own products or whatever. So that was interesting for me. And I start entering in the e-commerce madness and understanding how the process works. And definitely when I was in that side, now, living already in the US, and I start attending events and meeting people from the industry and getting involved, they start asking, why, if you have like all these manufacturers that why you don't help us to source our products? And I was like, interesting. I don't know how to do that because I was used to also the other side, like just help them to enter the market. But then I start talking with the manufacturers and I say, look, there is something called private labeling that literally, we call it maquila in Mexico or in Latin America, right? So they were like, let's see if that works for us. Because many of these manufacturers, they were used to manufacture products for their own markets. If I'm doing a plastic container, it's just basic, and I'm just selling this here within Mexico or within Central America. So it was an interesting opportunity for me to lay that out to them and start talking with sellers and telling them, if you place an order with them, you can have the benefit of it's next to you. So a couple years ago, I want to say 3 years ago, I was trying to convince people to source their products before the pandemic. And now, well, it's crazy. It's the opposite. They're like, please help. We need to understand.
Yeah, that's an interesting story. And I don't have any experience at all sourcing in Mexico. And so David and I, we get questions all the time from our listeners about where else can we source? And some of the largest problems we've had in our businesses was sourcing from China, long lead times, port congestions, tariffs, you name it. And so this is an excellent topic. I'm happy to have you on the show. And can you share with our listeners why should they source from Mexico and maybe a couple of the benefits of sourcing from Mexico?
Well, why they should do it? Because it's time to explore and discover new options because of what is happening with the supply chain, right? So for many products, it's an opportunity. And I want to mention, for example, textiles or wood products or home decor products, plastic injection. Like, this is the thing. In Mexico, they're used to manufacture for big companies or big brands from the US and all over the world. But the problem is that that market was available just for exactly the big brands because they already knew this. And they were like working together many, many years ago. So what is new is for us, for the e-commerce sellers, the Amazon sellers that are used to, if you're taking a course, you go directly to source from Alibaba or from Asia or from whatever platform they have. We don't have that. In Latin America, we don't have that. But that doesn't mean we don't have the capacity or the capability to do many stuff. And I was telling some people the other day, do you know that NASA manufacture stuff in Mexico? And they're like, what? Yes. They were very worried about quality in Mexico. And I say, this is the thing. Like, it's like it was in Asia. We took all these ideas in the US and took them to Asia and showed them how to manufacture stuff, the quality that was required to sell in the US. And they just produce and produce and produce. And I believe that what is need to be done is do the same thing with Latin America. They have the capacity, they have the capability to do it, but it's just a matter of education and understand what's the best way to work together in order to succeed. And we are in the same continent, so that's the beauty.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess you like at the highest level, you would say opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity for Amazon sellers and e-commerce sellers to source from Mexico, that thinking outside the box more so than not. That's awesome.
Yeah. And there is many companies that set up already. That's why I'm saying in big companies, they are setting up their manufacturers or part of their manufacturing in Latin America or in Mexico. It's not an option that is available for everyone. I mean, not every seller has the money to just open a new manufacturer. But what I suggest all the time is, but the sellers know what to do is to sell, right? So keep doing that and find a partner. Find a partner in Mexico or any place in Latin America where they are good to manufacture your product. And I mean, go for it. We're not 14 hours away. Maybe in some cases, we're 1 hour away, 1 hour flight. So it depends on where do you want to take your business.
I really like those points. And I think that you're talking about the big companies, right? Say like a Procter and Gamble. I know they source a lot out of Mexico. And there's a phrase I've heard like follow the smart money. And you look at a company like Procter and Gamble, they're huge. And like it or not, they're successful. And so there's a reason that they're sourcing out of Mexico. And I think that barrier to entry in terms of the communication is probably what holds some people back, which is why we're excited to have you on the show. So next, can we talk about certain types of products that would come out of Mexico or say Latin America? And generally like textiles or steel, there's a certain part of the world where they originate from. So is there anything that Mexico is, has an abundance of or is very good at manufacturing?
I will say like pretty much all. We try to go category by category with a few people that were asking or consulting us on the same thing. But we have like plastic injection, we have textiles, we have furniture, for example. And this is a thing that it's very important. Some of the materials are not from Mexico, they import the materials. But one of the good things, and I was talking with the owner of a manufacturer the other day, he said, we have 50 years of relationship with the manufacturers for the fabrics, for example, that we have everything planned, of course, for what they sell right now, like their productions right now. But that doesn't mean they can increase that. And it's easier right now to get the materials from Asia to Mexico through their ports than through the US. So that's an advantage at the end of the day. It will take a long time, but what I can say is there's other products that they can manufacture tomorrow. And with furniture, for example, the only thing that people need to understand is that it's not going to be probably the same type of wood, but it's going to be a wood product. Bamboo. There's a lot of people looking for products made from bamboo. And bamboo, we have bamboo in Latin America, for example, in Costa Rica, where I'm from. But the problem is that there is not a high demand in Latin America for those products. So there is no industry that transform that material into a product. So that's another opportunity. If I'm making products from bamboo, I will go and realize how much it's going to cost me to put a plant in Costa Rica to process the bamboo. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just ideas that we need to start getting creative to see the big opportunity that represent for all sellers to partner up with all these countries. Mexico for sure, because it's really, really close. But there is also manufacturers that are focused in just one product. Let's say plastic injection product, small product. That doesn't mean that they are not open to manufacture yours because they already have the machines and the knowledge and everything. Like I said, we just need to be creative and go for it. And that's what I always recommend.
Sure. So yeah, just to wrap that up, it sounds like there's a huge variety of products that can be manufactured and that the tooling and equipment is already there. It's just a matter of searching out which supplier is a good fit. That's pretty cool. So moving on, I want to talk about shipping a little bit. And with Mexico being connected to the US, can you speak to like the logistics? Is it cheaper? How long does it take? What's that look like?
Well, right now, of course, it's cheaper than Asia for sure. Lead times. I'm excited every time I talk about this because when I tell sellers, guess what? You don't need to wait sometimes not even a week. In some cases, in 3 days, 4 days, you can have your product in the US. So
Wow.
that's awesome. I will be very excited.
Yeah, that is huge. And yeah, seeing you light up when you said that was like, and same for me, like lead times of 3 to 4 days. That's pretty incredible. So digging into the shipping piece a little bit, my assumption is no boats, just trucking? Is it train or truck, or how does it?
Normally it's trucks. Yeah, ground
Okay.
transportation.
Okay. Fair enough. And yeah, so that moves a lot faster than boats and ports right now. So
Yes,
that's awesome.
for sure.
Very cool.
Follow-on question to that. What about tariffs? Any import duties or taxes?
Another great thing. Pretty much, I don't want to say 99, but pretty much like 90% of the products do not pay tariffs. So you're saving now 25%.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing we've talked about this on the podcast before is your customer is not getting a better product because you paid a tariff, a 25% tariff. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not adding any value when you're paying that tariff. And so that's very interesting and yeah, definitely a huge plus for Mexico right now. So.
Yeah. And I know this is something everybody asks me. It's cheaper to do the product. Definitely no, because there's no slavery in Mexico or, so the product, and this is interesting because the quality, sometimes they think in Asia they're getting quality. And when they see something made in Mexico, there's more quality. Most of the products, I want to say part of the process, it's handmade. In some industries, they don't have like these big machines that can do 5,000 units each hour. So it's more, I think it will be more quality if you, not just machines doing the procedures. You know what I'm saying? So the cost, yeah, it pretty much always is higher. But then when you don't have to pay the 25%, and when you're saving in a container that could probably cost you $4,000, let's say, because that change is not going to change to $13,000, but $3,000, that's what you were used to pay from Asia, so in that part is not going to be a difference. So sometimes it compensates the price with what you have to pay for shipping right now or for the 25% of tariffs.
Sorry to interrupt the episode. You may have heard Ken and I talking recently about a new tool that we're using for Amazon refunds. Now, I have used other refund tools like this. However, I can tell you in the first 7 days, they scrubbed the back end of my Amazon account going back 18 months and found $5,000 of refunds. And the nice thing about this is it's my money. Amazon made a mistake and they are just auditing my account. The other thing I really like about this tool is there is no monthly fee. They only charge a commission if they are successful in getting you your money. Go to getida.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM for Firing the Man, FTM 400. This is an awesome tool. Can't say enough good things about it. Now, back to the episode. All right. Very nice. Very nice. Now, at the beginning of the interview, you had mentioned one of the barriers to entry to Mexico was some of the cultural differences. And can you talk about that and as a U.S. seller, what we can do to overcome those hurdles?
Well, the most important thing is that we are too used to Asia. And we need to take that out of our heads and start thinking, I need to discover something different. And different means you need to be patient. It's not going to be the same. You're not going to have a quote in 24 hours. You're not going to have a quote in, sometimes it takes a week so you can have a quote, So that's part of what I said. Also, it's not the same way that we do businesses. Like in Latin America, we love to pamper people and be pampered, so it's more like we love handshakes, or now it's fist bumps, but we love that connection and create that connection with the manufacturer. It's the most important thing you can do, because that's the only way they're not going to feel that it's a little of pride, like they're not going to feel they are just using you as a manufacturer. I know it sounds crazy because it's business, but that's the way we manage our lives,
Okay. So to wrap that up a little bit, so being patient and developing a relationship with the manufacturer, the supplier, you're saying that those are really crucial?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
that's why we help our clients or the people in the industry. We're like the bridge. We're like the connection on that level because we know many owners of manufacturers. It's not the same if you introduce them directly or you start working with them or for example our team it's in charge of pretty much this. Once we introduce them, then we help them to get the samples, do all that. So we create that environment of trust that the manufacturer needs. We understand that probably in some part the seller needs that, but because in Asia it's problem like with the patents, with they don't care, they copy the designs, they start selling the same product and things like that. So in Latin America, in Mexico, it's less common that that happen because if you build that trust, I'm not going to do that to my friend or to the person that it's buying from me or the people that oh they are from the US or from other parts of the world and they are trusting in our manufacturer to do this. So it's kind of that is kind of a game, is a different game, but if you start understanding that that's what I'm saying. Is the culture, is the way we do business. Is not cold. Is it's very warm, and we like to feel like big family.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. And dealing with suppliers in Asia, that's sounds like a 180. It's not as cutthroat. You're saying it's more relaxed and building relationships. And yeah, and I really like that. So I'm excited to start looking at suppliers in Mexico, and I know the listeners are as well. So, is there a portal, or do you recommend sourcing agent? How does a e-commerce seller find a supplier in Mexico?
Well, that's big part of the challenge because I want to say there's some manufacturers that have websites, but even if they have websites, it's hard for people to get a response of an email or whatever. Most of them don't have websites because again, I mean, there are like small or medium manufacturers that serve their own city or their own country and that's it. They never thought about like I need to have a website because they have their distributors, so they are okay with that. I always tell people the best way to do it is go. Go, and it's the best way. Go talk to them, try to see, like, oh, can you make this? How many units can you make? Again, start building that relationship. What I do, like, I always say that I start like the manually Alibaba from Latin America because through the network of manufacturers that I know. And if I don't know them, I will make sure to have the way with my team to get in contact with them. They pretty much answer our calls. So, because it's different. Other thing that it's important, if you're not familiar with WhatsApp, get familiar with WhatsApp because it's incredible. That's what we use to communicate like if it was a normal text message, but that's what we use. And also in Latin America, that's a sales channel. You can sell through WhatsApp. So are all these things that it's important that you understand.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, Susanna, if someone wanted to work with you, say they had a particular product in mind or they were already selling a product, can you walk us through what that process would look like from start to finish?
Yeah, what we like is first we send them an onboarding form to see how many SKUs, what's exactly the product, and all that. And then we perform a little research on that product to see if it's feasible to do or manufacture or if someone is willing to. Because right now, I mean, manufacturers are getting busier and busier, but it depends on the quantities, it depends on many things. So we like to do a little research on that product. Then we pass to the samples. We always ask for samples There are some people that just come to me and say, can you manufacture this? And I'm like, through a picture, it's hard to say. So people, and it's interesting, most of the sellers at the beginning, when I start in all this, they don't even know what their product is made of. Because again, they're used to show a picture to a Chinese sourcing agent and they will figure it out so fast. So we need to know materials. Like the seller needs to know their product. And there's products that are more complex than others. But like the example that I gave you guys at the beginning, with wood, there is sustainable type of woods in Mexico. So there is other woods that we're not going to find, or it's going to be expensive to find that. But that doesn't mean we cannot make it. So once we start with the samples. We ask the manufacturer samples or a few manufacturer samples, quotes, because that's something that they love to do. Have the sample and try to replicate the sample, but they need to see it. And they need to make another one to be able to quote right and compare apples to apples. So that will save time for the sellers if we do it that way. So pretty much we manage like all the negotiations and all the process for them. And then they can play the PO, and we help them with coordinating the logistics and understanding how the logistics work and the best practices for the logistics. It's pretty much the process that we have.
Very nice. Very nice. So, Susana, what do you see over the next 3 to 5 years? What opportunities do you see from sourcing in Mexico?
From the next 3 to 5? Well, I think there's not just a big opportunity for the sellers to start manufacturing in Latin America, but also now that you're manufacturing in Latin America, start selling in Latin America. So leave some of the product there, sell it there, because you know what you're doing. So you have a huge advantage. If you know how to do it in the US with all the competitors, you're going to find that in Mexico or in all these countries, you're not going to have pretty much competitors, or you're going to be ahead of the game. So I think that's important. More opportunities. I see more companies, more US brands or world brands partnering with manufacturers. I definitely see that. I think that's very important. If they put knowledge and they put resources into them and start working together, they can really make it work. Because the labor is not so expensive like in the US. Also for services. Latin America, I can tell you this, in Costa Rica, there's a lot of call centers. We have people that is well prepared. You have like also graphic designers, marketers. You have all these services that you can also outsource from Latin America that are going to be cheap, well, or cheaper. But I think it's a huge advantage. And there's a lot of companies that are doing that. And like you mentioned, David, follow what the big companies are doing. Like they're doing that for a reason. So it's just getting to the game and understand that part. And also I want to mention something. It's very important for me, and I try to mention this always. Part of our mission, or the mission of our company and myself, is I truly believe that in a few years, 5 to 10 years, we can accomplish to have a little China, a China Junior in Latin America. And for me, that represents jobs for many people in Latin America that right now are risking their lives, that are crossing the borders, and they are trying to get a better life for them and for their families. So they will not have to separate from their families. They will have jobs in their own cities or in their own towns, because if we grow the manufacturers, that's what's going to happen. So we can stop a little the immigration to the US, and that will be a benefit for everybody. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a good thing. And we truly believe that Latin America can be the right hand of US in this industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I wanted to thank you for coming on the podcast today. You made a great case for sourcing in Mexico and kind of painted a good picture, kind of for the future. As business owners, it's always, I think it's always helpful to think outside the box and to look at other opportunities that are not right in front of your face sometimes. It gets you to that next level. So really appreciate you coming on the show. This is the time of the show where we go into the fire round, where we ask all of our guests a couple of questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. What is your favorite book?
I have a few, but I will say Think and Grow Rich.
I like that one. What are your hobbies?
Oh, I love to read. I love to ride horses. What else? I love to travel. That's what I love.
Okay. Awesome. What is one thing that you do not miss about working for the man?
Oh, managing my time. And also do exactly what I want. Because like sometimes when you're in a job, you feel like, oh man, these people should be doing this. And then you go to them and you say, I have this great idea and let's do this to sell more, or let's do this to improve our client experiences, or the experiences with the clients. I mean, and they're like, no, like that's not gonna work. So I can be creative as I want in my own business. So that's what I love. Like to have the opportunity to do whatever I want and try whatever I want.
Yeah, fair enough. Awesome. Last one. What do you think sets apart successful e-commerce entrepreneurs from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
I want to say the courage that takes to try something new, not knowing if it's going to work or not, like uncertainty. We human beings are like wired to be certain, and we like to be certain about things. But in life, like in business, uncertainty is what gives the spice to life and to everything. So you need that courage, or find that courage to be creative and, just go for it. Like take a plane, what can happen? Try to meet those people, try to find, other products. When you travel, I was 2 weeks ago in Mexico, and even myself, like I discovered products and things that I was like, oh, interesting. Like this is something that could work, so it's just take action no matter what, without fear, and don't take it too serious. No,
Great answer.
because at the end of the day, if you take it too serious, that can stop you. Analysis create paralysis, right? So if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it. So you better run and leave your competitor probably out of the game, because they're going to be out of stock and you're not going to be out of stock. So that's what I can say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. David, you want to close out the show?
Absolutely. How can people get a hold of you?
Through my LinkedIn and through our website. Also, the website, it's www.manufacturersuppliers.com. Email info@manufacturersuppliers.com. And there's some people that contact me through my Instagram, that it's at Coach Susana Vida. That's my Instagram. So
very nice. And we will post links to all of those in our show notes.
Great.
Susana, want to thank you for being a guest on the Firing the Man podcast, and looking forward to staying in touch.
Thanks to you guys. Thanks for having me. Blessings.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's Firing the Man podcast. If you like this episode, head on over to firingtheman.com and check out our resource library for exclusive Firing the Man discounts on popular e-commerce subscription services. That is firingtheman.com/resource. You can also find a comprehensive library of over 50 books that Ken and I have read in the last few years that have made a meaningful impact on our business. For that, head on over to www.firingtheman.com/library. Lastly, check us out on social media at Firing the Man and on YouTube at Firing the Man for exclusive content. This is David Schomer
and Ken Wilson.
We're out. Before you go, we wanted to share a new service that Ken and I have been using called Getita that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida.com, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you?